When Yin woke up, she counted the seconds in which she stared at the ceiling. She counted to 5, then realized it's not the usual ceiling she would see in the morning. And that's when she knew she wasn't in her room. She stood up and the cold air immediately hit her naked body. Naked? Yin looked down and immediately covered herself. She looked around for her clothes and saw it on the ground near a table. After that, memories from last night started to fill in her mind. Yin froze, her eyes wide as she stared at the sheets. Panicked, started to swell up inside her body. Oh, she groaned, her hands slowly coming over her face. Oh, what have I done? Her back landed on the mattress once again as she rolled around. Thoughts from last night plagued her mind. She realized now her argument with Bakugou and the things started to escalate between them as he approached her and told her he's been torturing him. And Yin, unable to fight the forbidden temptations she has never expected before, she was aroused by the temptation, and before she knew it, she was too deep into pleasure to even stop. Eventually, Yin stopped rolling around and opted at staring at the ceiling, waiting to do nothing but just wish for this mattress to swallow her whole so she'll disappear. She can't go outside as she remembered that Bakugou had ripped her dress with a knife. Then a knock came from outside and the door started open. Yin was quick to cover herself as she sat up. She's afraid it would be him, but it's just a female servant. Your Majesty, she bowed, with a folded dress in her arms. His Majesty has sent me to get you dressed. Yin blinked. Oh. And she attempted to stand up, only to feel a shot of pain coming from her between her legs, and she landed on the bed again. Bashfully, she looked at the servant, who only gave her a smile. A knowing smile at that. Yin knew dressing her up would be difficult, as she would be sitting for a while. But the servant made it possible and endured with Yin. After she finished dressing her, she left, and Yin started to dread the fact that she has to limp all the way back to her chambers. And she's also dreading the fact that the servant from earlier might spread the whole word that their queen slept in their king's chambers. Not to mention, words spread fast in this court. After sitting for a while, Yin endured the pain between her legs and stood up. She walked slowly to the door, opened it, and peeked outside. She looked around to left and the right to see if anybody is lurking around. And there was no noble, but there's one noble, but he immediately disappeared into another hallway. Yin got out of the room and used the walls for leverage as she walked all the way to her chambers. She encountered a few nobles. They greeted her and even asked if she wanted to go to the Great Hall, because apparently there are still a lot of people there drinking and dancing. Yin is amazed how they could last till morning. One thing she has noticed is that they haven't given her any knowing looks yet. That means the word of her waking up in Bakugou's room wasn't spreading in the court just yet, but it won't be long until everyone will know about it. Finally, she arrived in her chambers. She got in and immediately met Uraka. The brunette stood in front of her as she crossed her arms. You didn't come back last night. Uraka narrowed her eyes as she scanned Yin, who closed the door and leaned on it. Where were you? And where did you sleep? Yin didn't know why she's so nervous to tell Uraka what happened last night. She shares everything to Uraka. Surely she can tell her about this one. Let me sit first, Yin said sheepishly, pulling herself off the door and began to walk weirdly to one of the chairs. Uraka followed Yin and asked, Your Majesty, are you hurt? It's not exactly like that. Midoriya told me you also disappeared from the party last night. His Majesty told them you had retired, but where did you sleep? Yin thought that statement alone would make Uraka realize what happened, but maybe she really should go through the pain and awkwardness and explain to her friend. Uraka, I have something I'm afraid to say, and I'm afraid I have done something that might become detrimental to our plan. Now Uraka is very concerned. She knelt down to look in Yin's eyes. You can tell me. I might be able to help. Yin breathed and gulped. I was not present at the last moments of the ball because I was in His Majesty's room. Uraka cut her off. Oh my God. Realization etched herself in her face. Yin gripped the fabric of her dress and bit her lip. You and His Majesty did it? On cue, Yin groaned and covered her face with her arms. Yes, she spoke, her voice muffled. And it just happened before I knew I was too deep. Oh my God, Uraka squealed. Yin uncovered her face to look at Uraka. The brunette is smiling. She looked so thrilled for Yin, and this isn't what she was expecting at all. Oh my God. You can now answer my question, Your Majesty. How was it to have a man? Wait, you're not mad? What? Uraka asked in disbelief. Why would I be mad? I mean, with the coup and all. Oh, Your Majesty, to guard the coup for a while. For now, you have to understand that you also have to experience this kind of thing eventually. That you're a grown woman and married. It is unavoidable. Yes, but I told myself not to consummate the marriage until the coup is successful. It would result to a child, and my hold to the throne won't be established. I mean, yes, I want a child someday, but now, since we have a plan this big, Yin exclaimed loudly after her rambling, looking at Uraka for help. But it already happened, Your Majesty. I can't blame you because everyone says the temptation is too hard to resist. Oh, please. Yin groaned again, reminded of what she had just done. Uraka moved her hands. Don't be too hard on yourself, Your Majesty. Surely there is something we can do to prevent you from being pregnant. Yin looked at Uraka, her mind running for every possible thing that might help them. Then she remembered Lady Erica. Thistles, Yin said. Thistles? Uraka asked. Yes. It can prevent pregnancy, Uraka. That's what Lady Erica used when her and Her Majesty used to. Oh, right, yes. Uraka nodded. Surely I saw some servants use to prepare it for her. Oh, to think that His Majesty getting a mistress would be such a help for you, Your Majesty. Do you know where to get it, or how to make it? Uraka stood up. Well, I am very resourceful, Your Majesty. You can count on me. I will go and get it now. Yin smiled greatly at Uraka. Thank you, Uraka. The brunette smiled before leaving. When Yin is left alone, she slumped in her seat with a loud sigh. 2 days after the ball, Midoriya was called to the war room, as there will be another meeting about, war. The never-ending war between Igneous and Glacia. A map was sprawled on the table. General Aizawa stood at the end of the table, facing Bakugou, who stood at the other end. President Mike and Tokiyami stood close to General Aizawa. While Midoriya sat beside Tokiyami, he read his parchments to write down everything that Bakugou needs and told him to innovate if ever Bakugou needs an advice. Not that he ever asks him for any advice, but Midoriya has to do his job as a scholar. You said Glacier soldiers marched through the northeast part of our territory, Bakugou asked Aizawa. The general nodded. Yes. And what did they do? What did they get? The city of the Kingdom of Rus. This Kingdom of Rus is the closest kingdom to Glacia, a small kingdom like Magius. The kingdom was forced allies with Igneous, and it is a bad move for Glacia to go in and invade it. You mentioned Glacia invaded it 3 days ago? Bakugou turned his eyes to Tokiyami. Yes, Your Majesty. Bakugou ran a hand through his face. That was during the ball. Nobody said anything. While we were getting shit-faced here, half and half bastard was raging in our allies' kingdom, he said. See, this is why I don't want any of my soldiers. And he directed. Everyone looked except for Aizawa. I have sent a small party to see the situation in the kingdom, Your Majesty. Bakugou nodded, satisfied. And while you're at it, prepare the army, General. We're going to war once you get a hold of the situation here, and I'll come up with a strategy. Aizawa nodded in compliance. War? Midoriya uttered out. I'm afraid we can't have that right now, Your Majesty. That is not up to you, Deku, the blonde spat. But there is a problem, Your Majesty, with the finances. Huh? What's the problem? We spent 40% of our budget for the ball, and I'm afraid what was left is not enough to fund another war, Midoriya exclaimed. Bakugou gave him a look, as if what he just said is stupid and the solution is not obvious. Midoriya knew what that kind of look, and he knows that Bakugou is thinking, and the scholar is dreading it. Then collect taxes. Midoriya pursed his lips in defeat. As Bakugou dismissed the meeting, the scholar knew that that Yin wouldn't be happy to hear the news. Yin stared at the steaming tea in her hands, and she immediately cringed as she lost her fondness for tea the moment she started drinking the thistle that Uraka prepared for her. She placed the tea back on the table and looked at Midnight. A wide smile is displayed on her lips, and she's been smiling like that since Yin came to her chambers. Yin looked at Midnight worriedly and asked, Is there something you want to talk about? Oh, nothing really, Midnight queamed. I just called you here because I've been erratic. An almost dreamy sigh followed, and Midnight took a sip of her tea. She then lowered it on the table. I guess I have nothing to worry after all. It required a lot of encouragement and pursue, but everything is all right now. You've done it. Wait, you are really talking about... I'm very proud of you, Yin. Both you and Bakugou did a good job. Midnight reached out and held Yin's hands. Weirded out, Yin slowly pulled her hands away and got another into her seat, as if that would create more distance between her and Midnight. Seriously, did you call me here just to talk about my, sex life? Yes. Yin's jaw fell, and Midnight blunted. I cannot. Yin gulped. I cannot take this seriously. Oh, whatever are you talking about, dear? Midnight stood and approached her. You do not need to be so shy about it. Everyone is happy that all that matters. Don't be shy. We're talking about something that is supposed to be private, Midnight. And wait, did you say everyone? Yin doesn't know if Midnight is just so over the moon to notice, or she just chose to be oblivious of Yin being uncomfortable. Yes, dear, everyone knows, and they're expecting an heir sooner or later. Yin's mouth is left hanging shock. She is once again reminded that this is the price for being royalty. Your privacy is almost non-existent. I have to go. Yin stood up. Midnight is still smiling. She suddenly grabbed Yin by her arms and gave her a hug. The whole time, Yin remained stiff and only nodded uncomfortably when Midnight leaned away. Yin then speed-walked all the way out of Midnight's chambers. When she got outside, she thought that she could finally breathe and escape the thickening atmosphere, but when the nobles saw her walking, they all sent wide smiles on her way. Yin had no choice but to keep a polite smile on the outside and continue to basically die on the inside. Eventually, she finds herself wanting to escape everyone's smile. It's getting creepy. Yin made a turn and went inside the library, which is empty as usual. Yin now felt that she could finally breathe. She sighed before walking around the library. She wanted to find another book to read, but she remembered she still has a couple of books left in her table to read. For now, Yin just has to take advantage of the solitude she currently has here. Everything is all going well. That is until she made a turn and saw that she's not really alone. Her eyes met with Bakugou's, and Yin instantly froze. But the events from last night suddenly went coming back, which made Yin move to turn around and walk away from Bakugou. She doesn't know where she's going, but she just needs to avoid him. Unfortunately for Yin, Bakugou has found a way to catch up to her by slithering through the many bookshelves before taking a shortcut and appearing so suddenly in front of her. "You're avoiding me," Bakugou stated the obvious. Yin gave him an accusing look as if he is not right. I am not." She refused to look at him in the eyes as she took a step back. "I just don't want to face you right now." She cursed herself, not just for stuttering, but for coming up with a lame excuse as well. "That's why you're avoiding me?" Bakugou stated the obvious again. Yin refused to speak, afraid that her mouth will betray her again. She still feels Bakugou's gaze on her. What the hell? Don't tell me it's because of... Yin felt her heart travel up to her cheeks, and she found herself cutting him off with a squeal. No, please, it's not that." He lies. Yin knew she couldn't face him properly because of what happened between them last night. She did not expect they would get so far, and certainly did not expect that she, who vowed to never get intimate with him to prevent herself from having children after the coup is successful, particularly and even encouraged him during their intercourse. Uraka is right. The temptations of making love is hard to resist. Yin, who is new to the feeling, was roused and found herself wanting for more during the moment of intercourse, and she has with Bakugou. She wouldn't admit it to anyone. It is her fault for falling into pleasure, but even she must admit the feeling was aramphic. So I was right. There was a hint of smugness in Bakugou's voice as he said that. Yin remained quiet. "Oi, Sparkles, look at me," he said, and Yin, who did not look like his own one, but agrees to challenge him and looked him in the eyes. Of course, Yin felt her stomach doing flips of nervousness, but she refused to back down and continued to hold her guard. "I don't care what you think about what happened between us. I don't care how you label it. It's all on you. And what I think about it is all on me." He started, and Yin still seemed to agree with it. "Just like you said, we are two strangers forced in this alliance, but we have a job to do. You know that, right?" "Of course," Yin said, her voice barely above a whisper. "Right. So even with that and what happened, we should continue playing our roles. Me, the king, and you as the queen. Let us be professionals about it. You got it?" "I can be professional when I want to, but I'm surprised this is coming from you since you tend to lose your temper as much aggressive decisions." Bakugou glared at her. "But I'm still doing my job, and I will continue to do it even with my temper becoming still capable of doing anything. This time, I want you to cooperate with me again." Why? What's happening?" "War is happening." Yin's eyes widen, and she is reminded once again why she started her coup in the first place. "Again? Is it another war with Glacia?" "You seem to be getting used to it." "What? No, I am not. Why can't you and the king of Glacia just sit down and talk everything through with a sense of mind?" "Hey, you know it's not that easy. And besides, it was them who waged war with us the moment they ravaged our allied kingdom." Hopeless. Yin can only sigh in frustration. She already knows that no matter how much she argued with him, war is always one of the Bakugou's hobbies. "I want to fill you in my post here again. The moment I go to the front, you can do that, right?" Yin sighed again. "Just like you said, be professional." "Good." Without another word, Bakugou left. "Is it the view to your liking, General?" Yin said as she approached Aizawa. A day after Bakugou revealed that he's going to another war, Yin couldn't stay still and searched for every opportunity to get a hold of Aizawa in order to talk with him. But the general has locked himself in the war room for a whole day yesterday, and Yin only saw him in the garden once. The sun is slowly setting, and there's barely any time left until the light will leave the garden, and General could no longer bathe himself in the scenery view. That is, if that's what he's doing. Yin saw the man had been standing there with a blank expression, minding his own business. Who knows to her? General Aizawa turned and offered a bow. He then proceeded to gaze at the garden again. I don't like it, he said. I'm just trying to see what kinds of view as much as possible before I go. Yin's lips pursed into a thin line. You can't see much of this view in the battlefield after all, Your Majesty. Right. Another war. It's not a surprise, Your Majesty. Yin sighed. When will you be leaving? 2 days from now. General Aizawa drawled out, exhaustion audible in his voice. There was a passing silence before Yin spoke again. Let us take a walk. The general complied. Yin walked with him around the garden. She made sure to match his pace and turn her body slightly towards him. Tell me, she started, who came up with the strategy this time? Aizawa replied, I don't see why you have to ask that, Your Majesty. You already know I have to follow every word of the king. Well, I thought there would be some change for a chance, but did he ever ask your opinion? This time, all he did was the talking. We all kept quiet. He said he wanted to get rid of Glacia's army in his own way, fast and without mercy. Again, and you do not approve? Aizawa looked at her. No one does. They eventually stopped walking. The two overlooked the gardens as the sun finally came down to the horizon. I despise war. This time, it was Aizawa who broke the silence. So do I. That's not what I pick up from you when you told me you wanted to participate in all war talks. Yin looked at him. Yes, I wanted to participate, and hope that somehow I might give something that could lessen the deaths in the battlefield. General Aizawa is silent as he stared at Yin, his eyes glinting with amusement, and from what he can only see, declude as she tries to read his eyes, in curiosity for what more she can offer to this whole situation. Yin knew she now has Aizawa's interest, and is only the matter of time before she decides that she can mention the coup to him. But I do not wish to minimize the deaths of our soldiers. I want to stop the war as well, she said. And I know you want the same thing, General. Even if I want to, there's nothing I can do. I am bound to my duty to lead my men all the while following the king's orders. His orders that only cause a lot more men to die. And as I've said, Your Majesty, there is nothing I can do about it. She looked at him with an expression as if telling him that what he said isn't true, and that he might find himself believing it otherwise. There really is something he can do. Right now, General Aizawa is torn between following orders, something he can't break away from his whole life being a soldier, was lived on the purpose, and he continued to live with that ideal. But then, his entire life as a soldier allowed him to see things that made him question himself if the path he has taken to serve his kingdom in the front was the right choice for him. I have a proposition, General. Aizawa said, I have this position, the general, Aizawa said, looking into the distance. And I have my experience and my wit to guide my men into battle, but I am not allowed to put it into use. And will you keep condoning that? The general let out a breath. I have to. Yin tilted her head. Another silence passed them over as she let General Aizawa gaze over the garden. She turned her head to take in the view, but her mind is still very much focused on her goal. What if I told you that I have you a choice? There was a shift in Yin's voice, and General Aizawa must have caught it. He knew there's an underlying danger from what she just said. He turned to her with narrow eyes. You have something going on, Your Majesty? Yin decided to face him, conceding all her nervousness from what he had just said. Immediately, Aizawa came up with the realization. I know that look. I've seen it before. He said, perhaps the second wife has also become too angry. Yin did not say anything, but her expression did not do anything to oppose what General has said about her. Whatever you are planning to do, Your Majesty, I suggest you forget about it. You should know by now there's no courses with the king. Not even his wife. You should know after what happened to the first one. He warned and was about to turn away from her, but Yin decided to speak again. I already know the risks of my plan. I want you to hear me out, General, as someone who shares the same opinion as mine. The general stopped. He is interested, yet his narrow eyes is still wary of the danger of Yin's plan. He waited for her to say something. You and we both know our kingdom has been into many wars. We even started a couple of them, and we both want to end it. Yes, and what do you suggest, Your Majesty? Yin breathed in. I can help you stop the war, only if you help me. What exactly should I do? Join my coup. Yin finally said, I will start a coup against the king, to remove him from the throne, where I would replace him and begin peace to Igneous. And I need your help to make it possible. Will you join me, General? A pause. General Aizawa turned to her again, and the interest in his eyes is glistening so much that Yin can no longer needs to hope, because there is a large possibility that General Aizawa would like to join her. What he said brought a smile to Yin's face. Yes, I want to join.